Streaming.
Excellent. And I'm realizing I totally need to bring in lights from home
Mm-hmm.
or maybe turn on the ceiling lights. I'm going to turn on the ceiling lights.
You gonna try that
I,
right now?
yeah.
There we go. For me, that would if I turn on the ceiling lights and you just get this bright glow. You can't hear a word I'm saying. If I turn on the
No.
ceiling lights and I just get this bright glow right on my forehead.
Yeah, no, hair.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah, to
Hair that
absorb.
is currently getting
Yeah.
eaten by my chair,
I would say your hair is an albedo of like 0.5.
at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Maybe 0.3. I'm going to give you 0.3. Uh, all right. So let's see. We're going to. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a. So we were talking about Twitch. And so what's your plan with Twitch?
So, I'm going on my personal account tonight, which is Star Strider, because that's where
Mm-hmm.
I kind of live personally.
Yep.
And I've been working my way through the Star Wars movies in the machete order. And the only one I have left that is relevant for watching the new movie is to watch The Force Awakens. So I'm going to do that tonight at 8:30 Central, which is 9:30 New York, 6:30 Vancouver,
Yeah.
middle of the night if you're in Europe.
Yeah.
And while watching it, I am letting my inner dialogue escape. And I'm talking about the science and the things that they get the science wrong. And occasionally about how some of the characters are extraordinarily emo teenagers.
Yeah.
And I'm building a Lego Star Destroyer. And you get to see just how often I put the pieces together wrong and have to unbuild and rebuild things.
So which is it, though? Are you going to watch the movie or are you going to build a Star Destroyer?
I do both at once. I'm incapable of sitting still and only doing one thing at once.
Oh.
So I have the movie on my iPad and I have the Star Destroyer spread out in front of me and I'm very slowly putting it together while watching the movie.
Right. I have heard that it's a good movie, and I am going to break. I have one rule, and I'm going to break it, which is
What's
I
that?
never watch a movie in my local theater because it's just like they've not upgraded the chairs. It is like going in and then just sitting on jagged concrete for the length of the movie. So, in fact, I was thinking I'll take like one of those.
Take a pillow
I'm
or
gonna
a
take a pillow.
fluffy
Yeah,
jacket.
no, I'm gonna go. Take one of those chair things. That
Yes.
long haul truckers use, and I'll just put one of those in. So and have like a big, maybe or bring in my own super fancy chair and then use that. So I think that's what I'm thinking. Because but I'm gonna break. The reviews for this movie sounds okay. That so good that I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah, we're gonna wait until the huge crowds are no longer there because we don't have a theater nearby where you can pick your own seat. And I hate fighting for a seat and things like that and obnoxious teenagers
Yeah.
and get off my lawn. I've hit that point in life. And so we're gonna go the week of Christmas, we think, take a matinee show and
Yep.
do it when no one else is around.
I'm going to say hi to a bunch of people. Hi to Aldred, Adam Synergy, Astro B, Ben Kalo, Bort Klankar, Carolyn B, Chris Adams, Darian K, Ed Thompson, Guido Bibra, Harry M, Hugo Burnham, John Seffield, Quadlibet, Magnus Themer Jensen, Paranor 001, Paul Gracie, Peter Quinn, Psychocat 749, R Instro, Ren NC Brazil, Subject Line, Susie Murph, Jonas Sofree, and Zapfan. Hey, everybody. And to all the people who've been saying hi, but they didn't realize that they were supposed to say hi. This is the deal. You say hi when we start up the broadcast, and by doing so, you then show up in my list of participants, and then I get to say hi to you. So just remember that. You know what else is not so bad? Is the Orville.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gotten better because I'd heard it was
What'd you say,
horrible.
Carla? Yeah, Carla says meh. But she giggled a couple of times, so I think it's okay. It's getting better. Someone at the
Okay.
door?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, someone's at my door, but someone
But
else
you
is
have
going
other
to...
humans.
There are other humans here who are going to handle that. Okay. All right, so if you have no idea what it is that you have stumbled into, you're going to be watching a live episode of Astronomy Cast. We are going to do the next episode, and then you can stick around, and we will answer your questions about space and astronomy. Or we'll
And
just talk about science fiction and 3D printers and things like that. And the awesome SpaceX launch that happened this morning, which I watched as I was drinking my coffee and eating my breakfast. So...
And for those of you who don't know where the heck I am, this is our CosmoQuest office in Edwardsville, and Eddie is asleep in the corner, so there's still the chance of an Eddie invasion. And I now have a good microphone, so hopefully this will work well.
Right on.
That was a fabulous face, Fraser. Do you have like door-to-door proselytizing going on or something?
I don't know what's going on. I'm about to get a report, I think. So we'll see what happens. Weird. Was it proselyte? It's the Mormons.
Of course,
Aww.
of course.
They're
quite nice humans.
Yeah, I love. We love to talk about spaceships. I love when the Mormons come by and I just grill them about their worldly travels. I'm like, where did you go and what have you seen and what did you do and so on and so forth. Yeah, the Johos get a very different response.
Yes, I used to have a 6-foot boa constrictor. If you open the door with a 6-foot boa constrictor, they generally go away.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
The Mormons will ask if they can pet the snake.
All right, but we don't have time. We've got an episode of Astronomy Cast to do. All right, let's get cracking. So I'm ready to record over here. You're ready to record over there?
Yep.
I have my intro. I think I've got all the things done. I'm ready to go.
Okay. I'm pressing record. We are recording.
I am also pressing record. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to look over at my script. Here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 470, Modern Sci-Fi for the Science Lover, Part 2. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. My name is Fraser Cain. I'm the publisher of Universe Today. With me, as always, is Dr. Pamela Gay, the Director of Technology and Citizen Science at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, and the Director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Fraser?
Doing great. So we are going to continue on our exploration into some science fiction, and we're both gigantic fans of 3D printing. And I got a ton of kind of interesting stories of sort of 3D printing in the real world, but you kind of pitched this idea of let's talk about some of this, how it's kind of explored in science fiction. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Anything to recommend, announce, discuss before we move on to this week's episode?
Do citizen science while you're listening if you're not otherwise occupied. So it occurs to me when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm like doing laundry, cleaning the house, walking the dog, driving the car. And sometimes I'm doing stuff online. If you are currently sitting there unsure what to do to occupy the parts of your brain that we are not occupying, go to cosmoquest.org, pick a citizen science project, and do science. Learn science, do it all at once. This is my goal for all of you.
I know you've been doing a lot over on Twitch, which is cool, and you've been like watching Star Wars movies and building Lego sets. Have you done like just hanging out doing citizen science on CosmoQuest on Twitch and have people just join you and just keep the
Yes,
party rolling? All right.
we actually have 4 office hours a week that I and our postdoc Matt Richardson host. So I'm online every Tuesday night and Sunday afternoon. And Sundays we're actually working on constructing the telescope we have that matches the one that you have in your background. So we got the drive working. Well, we sort of got the drive working. I got the drive working late at night last week. It turns out Windows 8.1 is Satan's operating system. Um, yeah, we've been building telescopes on Sundays. I've been talking CosmoQuest and programming and things like that Tuesday nights. Matt's doing all sorts of different things on Wednesdays and Fridays during the day. So go to twitch.tv/CosmoQuestX and you can find out all about when we're on and how you can get involved.
And your personal Twitch channel?
Is Twitch TV/Starstrider.
Right on.
And it's all sorts of it expect the unexpected. So I'm always talking science, but I'm never sure where I'm going to go with it. So Saturday, I'm actually going to use a painting technique that I learned from our good friend Surly Amy, artist Amy Davis Roth, and it allows you to paint gas giants.
That's cool.
So I'm going to make a whole bunch of gas giants to hang up in this boring office. And you can learn with me how to do it and hopefully not watch me make too big of a mess with paint. But there's that gamble. So join me on Saturday, and it won't quite be Bob Ross, but there will be a lot of paint involved.
That sounds great. All right, so our journey through interesting science fiction continues. This time we talk about speculative fiction dealing with material science, nanotechnology, and 3D printing. It's a staple in Star Trek, but what other stories deal with it? Now, as I mentioned, I've got a couple of interesting anecdotes. So the first thing is I, as a really wonderful husband, bought my wife a 3D printer for her birthday earlier this year. It's one of the Monoprice 3D printers. It's a fairly small little printer, relatively inexpensive. And
Monoprice?
Isn't it Monoprice? Yeah.
It has a singular price?
No, it's the name of the company. It's where you buy cables and stuff from.
Okay.
Yeah, and they make a 3D printer, and it's a great little, relatively inexpensive 3D printer that we haven't made much, and we've sort of bought a few more additions to it, a bigger roll of the 3D printing supplies and stuff to it, but it's pretty neat to have one of these little 3D printers, and you start to sort of see the world as like, well, I could start 3D printing to fix broken pieces and things like that as an interesting project. And there's some pretty cool, like if you do any role-playing games, there are a tremendous amount of miniatures out there, but they're incredibly expensive. There's like, I can't believe how expensive miniatures are these days, but you can actually get 3D printed miniature models that you can then print off on your printer and have something that's kind of, gets you a lot of the way there, which is really neat. And you can paint them and everything. So the other story that I have, just before we move on to your part, is I was at SpaceX a few years ago, and they 3D print titanium.
That's cool.
It's amazing. And one of the things that's really cool is like you can't like cast titanium at a level of sort of that right density, but you can 3D print titanium. And so they gave me a chunk of metal that had a grill on it, and you can hold it up to the light, and it's like, maybe 5 centimeters thick, and you can see the light coming through because they were able to print these tiny little holes through the titanium, and that's the resolution of the 3D printing, which is just mind-bending. So that's my sort of experiences with 3D printing. We'll talk science fiction. What are you liking?
Well, so I think the place to start with this particular topic is there's a short story by Cory Doctorow, and I actually did a reading of it over on my Twitch channel. If you want to go hear me read the story, or just go download it, it's on his website. And the name of the story is Print Crime. And the idea is what happens in a future where it becomes criminal to print out the things that you need just to get by, such that you get arrested for 3D printing. And this kind of an idea is really one of those things that you have to worry about as you think of the future and try and imagine, well, how do you prevent someone from creating their kid their own Luke Skywalker toy, even if that's breaking copyright? And where does an idea begin and end to belong to somebody? And it makes you think about all of these different repercussions of 3D printing. And I really think it starts to make you aware that the person who made the design originally is the person who owns it and has the right to sell it. But if you can reproduce what they did, this is one of the ideas on how you copyright algorithms, is if it's something that someone can figure out on their own by thinking hard enough, that belongs to the world. And so how do we criminalize and let free our content?
And right now, the way we sort of manage and control that is with essentially the manufacturing. Like Lego, for example, Lego is the one who has the manufacturing of the Lego pieces. But if you could buy one of those 3D printers that I was mentioning, you could have it print out all the parts of the Millennium Falcon and just let it go, and then come back a day later and all of the parts of the Millennium Falcon were popped out into a bucket, and then you just grab them and put your Lego together. Then Lego's got a problem, because you would expect that the price of the raw material, the raw plastic, is going to be cheaper than what it's going to take to actually have a huge equipment, facilities, employees, marketing, advertising, distribution, etc. And yet you wouldn't get your Millennium Falcon if they hadn't designed it in the first place.
And this brings me to one of the things that you actually said a lot of years ago when we were first starting this show. We did a lot of training other people on how to be podcasters, because it was still the early days of podcasting. And I forget who it was that asked you, why are you training everyone else to do this and making your own competition? And your response was along the lines of, if someone else starts a podcast and does better than us, that means we're not doing it right anymore.
Yeah, it's on. Thanks
Yeah.
for the competition and the inspiration, and now I will have to be better.
And so it starts to get to the point that we're already seeing this. Individual Legos are out of copyright. And so there are a bazillion different companies out there doing knockoff Legos, but no one has the quality that Lego has. And so this is where they're able to stay that one step ahead most of the time. And then the other thing that they're doing is they're licensing the right to images. So they're licensing the right to do all of the Star Wars. They're licensing the right to the Saturn V. And so it's from that extraordinarily high quality and the licensing creative things that not everyone can just come up with out of their own brain, that they're able to stay ahead, even though everyone now has the right to make their own Legos.
So the book that I read that I really felt kind of took this to the logical nth degree is this book by Neil Stephenson called The Diamond Age. Have you read The Diamond Age?
No.
So the gist of The Diamond Age is that everything is 3D printed all the time. Everything is made. And because carbon is very easy to get your hands on, and they have figured out how to 3D print things out of diamond, everything is made of diamond, because diamond is the hardest, most useful building material. So build your houses, build your buildings, build cups, build anything you want, build it out of diamond, because if it's just as easy to just arrange carbon atoms as it is to arrange iron atoms or anything else that you're going to want, everything was built out of diamond. And it's this really interesting thought about just like, what does runaway, totally accessible 3D printing do to a human society when as soon as you can imagine, as soon as you get your hands on it, you can print versions of it. And people have like these flying drones. They're sort of in constant threat from people trying to assassinate them from 3D printed microscopic drones tipped with poison all the time, right? And people have defense drones, and it's a really kind of interesting look. And that's, you know, one of the ways that I really like to think about this is like, what is the logical final result of these kinds of technologies? And that is sort of, you know, that is like, if everything is possible to build, what will everything be built out of?
And one of the great things about looking at all the different ways that 3D printing comes up in science fiction is it seems to get used in two different ways. One is as a let's look at the socio-emotional war implications of how 3D printing has the potential to change society. The other side is as a plot device so that essentially you're able to get away with not having a local target to go run to when you need a new pair of pants. And this dichotomy in ways of looking at it is really quite awesome. And one of the books that actually takes on both of those different things is fellow podcaster Merle Lafferty's book, Six Wakes. Have you had a chance to read this book yet? It's super good. And I don't just say this because I helped science advise it. I say it because it's actually super good.
Well, Merle Lafferty's great, but yeah.
Yeah, she's really, really good. And one of the things that comes out of it is they figure out not just how to do the Star Trek thing of 3D printing food, using it as a replicator essentially, but they also figure out how to 3D print humans. Mm-hmm. And as part of 3D printing the human, they have figured out how to take regular backups of a human's neural network, essentially, our brain pattern that is unique to all of our current memories. And so by doing daily backups, if you die, you essentially lose whatever memories of what happened from the moment you died until they can download you into your next body.
And this is the gist of this new book that's been picked up for Netflix. Is it Altered Carbon, I think is what it's going to be called? Yeah, and it's the same sort of idea that we all essentially will live forever. Our bodies will be 3D printed. They will be, if you die, then you move into a backup and you just continue on. I think that fits into the same problem of the transporter, right? Which is that, you have a unique sort of persistence of consciousness, and when you die and they run up a copy, that copy is like, haha, it's like I never died, but really that's a new person, and the you that was in the old meat suit dies. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you hop in the transporter. Is it a teleportation device or is it a suicide booth? I think it's a suicide booth, but...
Well, and what comes up in Altered Carbon, which is also a good audiobook, what comes up in Altered Carbon, what comes up in Six Wakes, what comes up in so many of these different things is what happens to the you that existed between that last backup, that transporter buffer, and the new you. Well, they're gone. So clearly there's a discontinuity in you. One of the things that comes up in Bobverse is just the quantum differences between one version and another can lead to massive personality differences down the line. And then there's all of the complications of with 3D printing, you can change a person. And is it ethical to add enhancements? Is it ethical to cure genetic diseases? And then there's the whole reproduction issue of, is it ethical for clones to have children, or does only your original body get that right?
So the Bobaverse, I think, is a great example of what I think is one of the most powerful applications of 3D printing, which is that not only does can software be a thing that you can transmit to someone else? So you could, here on Earth, someone can make, for example, a podcast one time, and then that podcast can be transferred around the world and people can listen to it. But you can imagine this future where you transmit the instructions for building anything and then it gets 3D printed. And this is one of the things that actually I thought was sort of a bit of a flaw with, say, The Martian and things like that, was I'm amazed that he didn't have some kind of 3D printing capability there on the surface of Mars with him, that then the folks at back at NASA could just send instructions like, let's build some parts that you're going to need to be able to survive there on the surface. And they've already built a 3D printer on the International Space Station, and that is, once we have become a true kind of solar system spanning civilization, you can really imagine the knowledge work, the manufacturing, the figuring things out gets done here on Earth, and then you transmit the instructions on how to build the new computer chip, and the fabricating device builds another copy of itself.
And one of the awesome things that is a regular application of 3D printers is the generation ship, where you send out your colony with the stuff it needs to replicate things, this goo of nutritious substance that can then be 3D printed into a food of any choice, the stuff that can go into building your chairs, building your beds, building your walls. Here on Earth, we can now 3D print houses.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is they're built on an arm that pivots in a circle. So you have these buildings that are all circular, and they remind me of some of my children's stories where the houses were built by essentially globbing clay over the spherical creatures in the stories. But anyways, this is an effective way to build things, we're finding. And so in the future, we'll be able to have those vats of goo, which could include titanium, SpaceX is teaching us, and we can produce everything across the generations. We do, though, have to be super careful about recycling, but 3D printing offers us this chance to reconstitute everything over and over and over.
And I think the one of the more sort of most common, or one of the big thoughts about this idea of 3D printing, is this idea of self-replication, that you build a spacecraft or a robot that can build more copies of itself. And that's sort of what was happening in the Bobiverse. But, when you think about, for example, Saberhagen's ideas of the Berserker probes, right, that you get that a spacecraft goes to another star system, lands, sets up orbital factories, builds more copies of itself, 3D prints more versions of itself. Those replicate out to other star systems. They build more versions of themselves. And really within a million years, conservatively, you can reach every corner of the entire galaxy. And it's one of the most kind of troubling aspects of where are
Why
the
are
aliens?
we alone?
Yeah, where, fine, we don't know where the aliens are, but where are the alien self-replicating 3D printed robot probes? Those should be out there.
And yeah, and this is where we see the use in Aurora by Kim Stanley Robinson, one of our favorite authors to bring up, I think, where he has in his generation ship this idea that you can go out and use the 3D printers to create absolutely everything you need, as long as you can keep the system completely in balance. And you see this again in Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson, the idea that you have to keep everything completely in balance, but you can use 3D printing.
Mm-hmm. Did they do much in Seven Eves?
Not much, but they did have 3D printing.
Yeah.
It was one of,
well,
it's
a
one
lot
of
of
those
it was
things.
they had those little robots, right? So
Yes.
so one of the main characters had these great little robots that were digging out this asteroid that had been attached to the International Space Station, and and then they were bringing all these raw materials and then turning them into the kinds of things that they needed to do to be able to survive.
Which is essentially 3D printing, except instead of having a single arm attached to a single robot, you have all these little critters doing the extruding for you.
So, what else has sort of crossed your eye?
So, jumping from books to movies, I think we have to bring up the amazing way that both Westworld and The Fifth Element and a few other science fiction series, or movies rather, have used 3D printing to create both life forms that are amazing, and also in the case of Westworld, all of these robots that are built up layer upon layer. And that's really the key to doing excellent robots, is you have to have an additive process instead of a subtractive process, which is what so much of our construction actually is. So in Westworld, you see them laying out the metal skeleton, laying out the circuitry, and then adding the skin a layer at a time and adding the paint a layer at a time.
Yeah, I really liked the Westworld series more than I thought I was going to. And apparently if you binge it, it's better.
It's way better if you binge
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I binged it and totally fell in love.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's and what was I don't remember the 3D printing in The Fifth Element. I saw it.
It was the demigod guy, the evildoer, got 3D printed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I haven't. I mean, the classic one is Star Trek, of course, right?
The
And
replicator.
the replicator, which is always so weird to me because, like, on the one hand, they're replicating, tea Earl Grey hot, but yet you can make food, but there's all this other stuff that I don't think really occurred to them to make from 3D printing. But
It's one of those weird things, like when you're watching the Star Wars movies and it's like, dude, you could have used the Force. Why
Yeah.
did you not use the Force right there?
Yeah.
With Star Trek, it's like, dude, transporters. Why did you not use
Yeah.
transporters right there?
yeah, ship to ship transport. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
One
Why
of the
are you
things-
shuttling about?
We were talking about the Orville earlier, and they don't have transporters in the Orville, and I think that's a very wise move because it does open up all kinds of plot problems. But so what do you think is the sort of realistically, how do you think this technology is going to be playing out? I mean, Cory Doctorow clearly is thinking about the implications of 3D printing, where copyright and manufacturing kind of crash into each other.
What I'm really enjoying is the way companies like Shapeways are advancing, where you have these companies that you send them your designs and your imagination becomes anything you want it to be without having to worry about accidentally creating something that looks like it had a bad day in the microwave, which is my personal fate with 3D printers.
Yes.
And so I'm loving the fact that we have these spaces that allow people to go in and make their own future. It's going to hit the point where we can customize our reality at every possible level. I don't know how it's going to affect things like art, though. And this is where I always worry, is you have these artists out there who are doing amazing things. And then people are like, oh, dude, I could totally create that with crayon in 5 minutes. And as we have more and more of this technology available, it becomes easier for people to say, oh, I don't need to buy art. Oh, I don't need to. I could create that at any time. But then we don't. And so I worry that certain occupations will be lost. But at the same time, I value the idea of being able to completely design my own reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just the idea of being able to do a 3D printed house, being able to make additions to your house. I mean, these are just amazing. And I think that it is going to cause a tremendous amount of difficulty for people, for sure. And yet it's the kind of technology and the kind of idea that we have to push forward. And it's kind of interesting to be right on the cutting edge to watch, because right now, if you go and you buy the 3D printer like that one that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's a total pain. It's the worst, right? Like, it is clearly still refuge of the technologist, and requires a
Yes.
tremendous amount of both software knowledge and hardware knowledge, and you just got to be careful, or else the thing sticks to the print surface and gets out of alignment and all this kind of stuff. But these are fixable problems. You can imagine a
Yes.
time very soon where you do have a box and you tell it what to make, and the thing gets made.
And what amazes me is we're already able to 3D print skin. So burn victims can now get the artificial skin they need through 3D printed processes. They're getting to the point that they're able to treat diabetes with 3D printed pancreatic cells. They can't completely replace the pancreas, but they can get the stuff that you need to get the insulin. There's a waiting list of order of 60,000 people to get a kidney. So if you need a kidney, you're probably not going to get a kidney. But we might be able to start making kidneys, and the potential that has to end the suffering of people who are forced to live on dialysis. This is where the power to change everything starts to come from.
All right. Well, I think we've got one more talking about science fiction next week. Hadn't you planned that?
Yes, we're going to talk about biomedical side, which I just hinted at, but we're going to get to it.
Right on.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you. And now we save.
470.
Thank you.
I've got to clean off my hard drive. One of these is going to fail soon. Maybe I'll do that. I'm sort of torn. Do I do that, or do I just play video games all day today?
Oh, I wish I had the time you have.
You're going to go and make a Star Destroyer on Twitch. Don't you tell me?
It's true.
Yeah, no, I don't have time. I just have no motivation. That's what I have. It's a complete lack of motivation. Actually, we just, you can tell from my clean-shaven head that we just recorded a bunch of episodes, and I just released a new episode to patrons all about the atmosphere loss of Mars, which is really cool.
And we should say to all of you out there who are our patrons, it looked for a little while that Patreon was going to screw up on fees in a way that was going to leave everybody confused. And it was still competitive. It was still worth the value, but it was confusing. They're not doing it. So please continue to support us on Patreon or PayPal. We don't care which. Patreon makes it easier for us to communicate with you. But these are the ways that we pay Susie and Chad, and we're hoping to start paying the two of us.
Questions. Renancy Brazil wants to know, is there any news about Planet 9? No.
Only rumors and speculation. I was hoping there might be news this week with the American Geophysical Union meeting. There wasn't. Maybe during the American Astronomical Society meeting, but probably they're going to hold if they do have news for the IAU meeting in the summer.
I would be surprised if they find it before the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope gets rolling, because they have already fairly intensely scanned the plane of the ecliptic. So the places where these worlds would be easily found, that has been very well explored. It's above and below the plane of the ecliptic that is the part that needs to be explored, and needs to be done with a very it has to be both a very deep survey, but also something that updates on a regular basis, that's going to actually be able to find an object like Planet 9. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna have to wait for that.
I'm hoping you're wrong. There'd been these rumors that it might have already been found and was awaiting confirmation, and I'm really hoping those rumors were true. Sometimes you just want a rumor to be true. That doesn't mean it is, but I want it to be true.
Yeah. Quadlibet is imagining me as being Bob from the Bobiverse. Okay. without a beard. Let's see. Quadloid also wants to know if it's anytime.
Oh, I can. He's dead asleep.
Oh,
Let me see if
we
I'm
don't
not going to wake him up.
No.
I'm going to.
Isn't there like a thing that you say about sleeping dogs?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm going to show everyone. Nope, apparently I'm not. So, wait. Yeah, you could just make them out. I have the exact same planets
Oh, right on.
that Fraser has. And the irony we have in the office is Uranus keeps falling off the wall.
Oh, does it turn over on its side?
Now it just falls off and attacks people. So I'm slowly rotating my screen. Oh, I can't rotate it all the way because of my microphone cable.
All right. Did you get them signed?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, I made that a requirement from the
You were
artist.
smarter
Yeah,
than I
I'm
was.
like, I'll buy them, but you got to sign them. And he was like, yeah, okay, done.
Okay.
But I got
figured
something
out how
else
to
that I bought. Here, let me show you this.
I'm slowly rotating my camera. There's Eddie. Completely asleep in the corner with his head wedged underneath the shelves.
So check this out.
That is excellent.
Yeah, so it's...
What exactly is that?
It's the moon.
Other than excellent?
It's the moon. It's a 3D printed moon with a nightlight inside of it. And,
okay.
Yeah, and so you plug it in. Right, it's got a little plug. Oh, not that one. Another plug. So you plug it in, and that charges it up. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's got a little button on the bottom of it. Here.
Uh-huh.
And you can press that button, and it changes it'll turn off, and then it'll do the yellow version. Oh, hold on. And then it'll do the more realistic.
That's a better color.
Yeah, kind of white.
But that one you can't sleep through as much because it has more blue wavelengths.
I don't know. But it's good, and it's apparently 3D printed. So what happened was I got a bunch of people reaching out to me on Instagram saying, do you do sponsored deals? And I'm like, no. And there was like, I want to sell copies of this thing. And I'm like, that looks like a thing a person could buy from Alibaba for about $10. So I went to Alibaba, found them, bought it, $10, and had it shipped to me from China. Which, if you go to Amazon, you can buy them for $40 or $50 or whatever, right? Yeah, Paranor 001. Yeah, that's the global ball that Trump had his hands on? I don't think so. But yeah, so it's funny to me. Like I was thinking of sort of doing the same thing actually with the telescope of like going, if I go to China, if I look for the Chinese manufacturers, what kind of telescope could I get or binoculars could I get? And because they're all manufactured there already.
Yeah.
Celestron, all of that. All the telescope manufacturers. I mean, I don't know any specifically, but a lot of the telescope manufacturers get their stuff done in China and so on. And so,
yeah.
What would it be like? Could you white label? So anyway, that's an investigation that I want to do, and this was sort of the first part, was just kind of go, how does this work? And so I bought one. So anyway, they're cool. I actually am pretty impressed. I like it. You can take nice pictures of it, and it's the moon. There you go. Boom.
Very cool.
No wonder the Mormons came to my house earlier. They were smelling a warlock. Exactly. Okay, this is a great question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. Ryan Schmitz wants to know, what is the most massive object that could be an Earth Trojan? Is Earth too massive to be a Jupiter Trojan? And it's okay to say you haven't done the math.
I have no idea.
When we did an episode on Lagrange points, you made it very clear that if you want to be in the L4, L5 point, you need to be insignificant compared to the mass of the two objects
Yes.
that are providing the stability points. And
Yes.
so satellite is okay, tiny asteroid is okay, another Earth in the Earth orbit is not okay.
No.
And that's going to drift out.
And so what I don't remember is how massive Jupiter is. Hold on. Mass of Jupiter in Earth masses.
I'm going to guess 350 or 5.
It's 318.
318. All right.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
So I think Earth would be pretty borderline on that one.
Right, but we don't know the exact number. There isn't anything there. There are some Trojan asteroids, but there isn't anything that's Earth-sized in there. But you definitely couldn't have another Earth in the L4 or L5 points of the Earth orbit.
No, you need to have things much, much smaller, which is why spacecrafts fit so nicely.
I will, or if somebody who's watching this right now, I know someone who could make this calculation for me. I will get to the bottom of this, and I will definitively get it calculated. Because everybody wants to know this question.
This is the first time I've heard this question.
No, people want to put Earth in Jupiter's orbit.
Why?
Yeah. Oh, I heard a much better. I don't know if did we talk about this last week? Man, I have so many conversations. Did we talk about moving the Earth with one asteroid? So, we talked about how you could move the Earth with
dragging the Earth around with an asteroid?
Yeah, well, we talked about using a bunch of them.
Yes.
Well, it turns out you can do it with just one. You just bank shot it around Jupiter back and forth every 6,000 years, and it just gives enough of a kick to Earth to raise its orbit away to keep it safely from the heating up sun. So you don't need
that is awesome.
a ton. You just need one bank shot around Jupiter from time to time.
Someone needs to write that story.
Yeah. So I did a collaboration with John Michael Gaudier, and we talked about planetary migration. I covered sort of how it worked in the solar system and the Nice model and things like that. And he talked about the future, and this was one of the papers that he brought up, and I was just like, of course, that makes so much sense. It's so much easier than going out and wrangling an asteroid every 5,000 years. You just get one, and you just have it going around. I thought it was such a great idea.
I'm making a note of this idea because this is an excellent idea that I want to play with the numbers on.
Yeah, and it could go horribly, horribly wrong, of course. I'll try and find you the paper.
Yeah, please do. That sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim Meeker, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome.
The other thing is to think about. We've been talking about Oumuamua and talking about this asteroid from another star system, and the fact that
appears to not be a spaceship, folks.
Yeah, no communications from it, but it has. There are at any time 30,000 asteroids falling into our solar system from outside, and when you think about that, these could be asteroids that we could capture. There's 30,000 extra chunks of material coming from the galaxy as a free gift to the solar system if we can catch them and keep them, and that's how we could gain minerals for the future, which is sort of a really interesting. Again, I find that kind of a fascinating idea that we've used up all the minerals here in our local solar system, and then we're just catching the stuff that's coming in from the outer galaxy.
So we can catch them and keep them and love them and call them George.
Yeah, exactly. All of them. PsychoCat 749. What's up with simps? Could this shed new light on dark matter? Have you been tracking this? No. So it's I don't know. This is where we would throw this at Paul Metz-Sutter on the Weekly Space Hangout, and then it would be a released Kraken, and he would attack. But simps is this. And I forget what the S stands for, but it's this modification to the idea of WIMPs, of course, weakly interacting massive particles. And then SIMPS is an alternative theory to explain what dark matter might be. And there was like a press release that came out a couple of weeks ago, and that's all we know. But, people propose alternative explanations.
So
you're like digesting it right now. People propose all these alternative things about dark matter. Your internet is dying.
I made the mistake of loading a page and it started to try and load an episode of The Simpsons, which was not the same thing as Simps.
Mm.
I will no longer touch my computer
And that's
because
now owned by Walt Disney.
it's true. It's true. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with like Universal has Simpsons Land. So if the Simpsons are now owned by Disney, just mass chaos. Mass chaos.
No. I mean, I guess, but I mean, the thing is that like there's just the things that owned by Disney and pretty much nothing else. Like Universal Studios has the Hulk.
Yes.
Everything else is now owned by Disney. It's just a matter of time before they buy Universal Studios, and then they're done.
True. They have Harry Potter. Universal still has Harry Potter. And this is the reason to go to Harry Potter Studios because butterbeer is amazing.
Really?
It's absolutely amazing.
Better than regular beer? Better than real beer?
Yes.
You don't like beer then?
I do like beer. Oh, I can. So we're saving this to open until next week after finals is over. I'm going to share it with my programmers. I have my space beer, my ground control beer.
Oh, is that when that company reached out to you and asked you if you wanted to have some space beer? And they reached out to both of us. And then I said, oh, I'm a Canadian. Is that a problem? And that was a problem.
They said yes.
Yeah, that was a problem. And then I don't get any space beer. And so can you turn the bottle around? No, turn it the other way. There we go.
So it's bourbon barrel aged imperial stout brewed with Oregon hazelnut, star anise, and cocoa nibs.
That sounds delicious.
Yes.
But as a filthy Canadian, I don't get to taste it.
I'm sorry. You're actually a clean Canadian, but I'm still sorry.
I don't get to have
sorry.
I don't get to have YouTube Red. I don't get to have Hulu. Until just recently I didn't get to buy Amazon Alexas. I don't get.
Why couldn't you have an Amazon Alexa?
Because I'm Canadian. So I don't get to have YouTube TV. I don't get to, don't get me started. I don't get to watch Saturday Night Live clips the day after, like you all do.
You need a better VPN.
Oh, no, I just need to not be Canadian? I don't know. It's just not fair. It's funny too because Carla is bumping up against this all the time. Where she's like, "Why can't I see this thing?" I'm like, "You're living in Canada now." She's like, "Oh!" She gets so mad because we are clearly second-class citizens in the world.
Well, yeah, and my husband and I are the opposite situation where we're in the United States and he's Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And so like someday we'll be retiring to Canada. You guys have real health care. And it's just sort of like all the things we're going to have to leave behind. But you also have net neutrality.
I was about to just really sort of drop the hammer on you there, which is that we do have net neutrality here in Canada.
Yes.
Which sucks. I'm so sorry for you guys. I'm
hoping that like Congress or someone will go no. But
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, that is the worst. You guys need to fix that right away because that's going to be a problem. Especially
I know.
Like 65, I forget the number, 65% of Americans have only one choice of a broadband provider. Do you have a choice? You have no choice.
I have no choice.
You either take the broadband provider or you get no broadband provider.
Yeah, I could go with satellite, but satellite doesn't count as broadband.
No.
I could go with cellular, also does not count as broadband.
Elon Musk, save us. That is the thing that
Google Fiber. This is what we need everywhere.
No, but SpaceX is planning on launching a constellation of high-speed gigabit internet satellites, 4,200 plus satellites, which will provide high-speed internet to anywhere on Earth with a little box.
I'm not convinced yet because that's going to take a lot of launches.
Yeah.
But
it is a lot of money. Think about how much money they'll make by being able to get everybody's internet in the whole world. So I think there's an opportunity there, especially right now with the United States. So I think Elon Musk, hurry.
Eddie is now awake, and someone just came into the other half of the office, and he is wiggling and he is whining.
Oh, he's ready to go.
He's like, my favorite human is on the other side of this door, by which I mean one of my grad students who always has cookies.
Jordan Couch says that Canadians have megatons of natural resources. Yeah, no, that's fine, but I can't trade raw lumber for Hulu access. No amount of uranium is going to let me be able to get YouTube Red. Oh, that poor dog.
I just messaged my students that they're free to open the door and release him to their side of the rooms. He's so pathetic.
Oh, all right. I think we've reached the end of our hour. It's time to shut this thing down. I don't see people hitting us with the tough questions that we've come to deserve. So can you get a shot of?
They just released him into the other room.
Oh, he went off to find someone.
I can go get him become a patron and join our Patreon office hours. He will be in our Patreon office hours. I'm sure.
When is the office hours happening?
In 17 minutes.
Okay. All right. And where do they go?
We send out a link with a password to people who have donated, and it's Zoom, so it's video all around, it's chat all around, and it is our chance to just shoot the shit, plan future episodes, discuss new science, and just kick back and get to know other science-minded people.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Pamela. Thanks, as always, to the Weekly Space Hangout crew that provides this awesome chat down at the bottom and many, many other things. We appreciate everything you do. We will see all of you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone.